Yeah, we want to welcome a new person to our group of instructors. This is Anna Clark, and uh, she and I taught the class last year, but she's been so busy, and I'm so happy that she can join us. So we want to give her some time to tell about herself, to introduce herself to you. Gook.
يقوتي كنالتشيش شخصانيكيك كنخيك ايخ ستيني التكتيوهان ميلا توغا ايا اخ كننا ساي قتكي قوانا يخت اخ تلا ينانخ اخ ايش هس قا كننا كن اتشوي كننا يدي يخت انشيش كيخت يتيا يدت سواد كيخت ووات. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Anna in English, and my Khoikan Athabascan name is Nila Torat. And I am a European immigrant on my mother's side. We're white with ancestry in Germany. And my father's people are Khoikan Athabascan from Caltech. And I'm a student of Lingit, and now I'm teaching. Shirley has been a big part of my teaching journey, helping me get my feet wet and learn to teach. So, like she said, we used to teach together, and then now we're back together again. The band's back together again. So, good teach.
Ah.
Ah,
Adi, thank you for coming again. And we have, if we have any new people that were not here on Tuesday, at least if you weren't able to be here on Tuesday, we did introduce a couple of new lines to the knock knock that we had. So is there anybody that needs for me to go over that?
I wasn't here on Tuesday, but I was here last week. This is Alexandra or Anasik.
Okay.
So I wasn't here on Tuesday, though.
So in the visit, you have in your notes, you should have teq hatrosi in fruit cocktail banana steam. So you have that?
Yes.
And then the next line that I introduced, well, of course, he said, Train gonna cheese, that was the one that you had supposed to have in your notes. Then introduced Wasayati, Mary, and it's an inquiry about his wife. The scene that we're working on is visiting an old couple.
oh,
So I came up with the name Mary because I was thinking if I used a Tlingit name, it might be somebody's name. So I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and use Mary.
nice.
Wasayati Mary, how is Mary doing? Wasayati Mary. So it's WAASA, tone mark on A, the last A. Next word, YATEE.
I'm taking notes too. I'm just putting it on the screen so people could see too.
Good.
Yeah.
Wasayati Mary. And how is Mary? How's your wife Mary? And the answer is, I think I said, Kunach Tak. arthritis teen.
How do you spell tlaq?
I think it's TLAKW, talk.
Is it high tone A?
Enough talk, yeah.
Okay. And what does it mean?
It means she's very, very sick with arthritis.
Oh,
Takyati, it tells you it's very serious, very, very hard on her.
okay.
Don't forget that kunach, which means it really bad.
Really bad. Okay.
And of course the answer is Ish. The comment was Ishan. Those are the two new lines.
Okay.
And like last year, for those that wasn't here on Tuesday, I mentioned arthritis specifically because when the study was done recently on arthritis in Alaska, it was found that arthritis can be very serious among Tlinkits, especially among Tlinkits, and they don't know why.
Oh,
So, are there any questions or comments on that?
can I hear the first line again about in?
In fruit cocktail cup banana steam.
Cocktail, a bananas team.
Yeah, I wanted to include some English words because the elders were not very bashful about using it when they had to. So if they didn't know what it was called, even if they knew what it was called, they sometimes used English anyway. So
What is teak?
berries,
Oh, berries.
usually mixed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was missing the L, teak.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Teak.
Are there
I'm
any comments or questions?
So that means I'm making berries. I'm
Oh, I brought you berries.
Oh,
I'm bringing it. And it's got fruit cocktail and bananas in it.
oh yeah. Okay.
Somebody guessed right away. Today it's commonly called potlatch berries.
Oh, cool. In fruit cocktail cup bananas teen.
In is it's when you have liquid, you're carrying liquid
Oh yeah.
in. From when we went into the breakout rooms and I listened, everybody that tried it, pretty cautious, which is expected. And I can tell you're reading your notes, but what I go there for and listen for is things that are not pronounced right, and I didn't hear any. That was really good. Like, So keep it up, the practice, and I think you'll get it. If you're more relaxed, it'll sound better. So you're good. You're doing good right now. So Kunach Yani arthritis team.
Brightest team.
And then Ishan. That was the one for Tuesday that
What does teen mean?
with
Oh, okay.
yeah. It's like we say fruit cocktail bananas team. And also that's the berries are with fruit cocktail and bananas in it. And then you can also use it that Mary is really sick with arthritis.
Mm.
Yeah, we have it twice. Fruit cocktail, bananas teen, and then arthritis teen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know when you really translate it, it's kind of strange for in English, if you translate it that with comes at the end.
Yeah.
Saying fruit cocktail and bananas with.
Yeah.
So. Are there any comments or questions, ladies and gentlemen? How many do we have?
We have 12 students, and I'm just looking in the chat. And some people are just filling me in on what I've missed so far, it looks like in class, so that's good. I don't see any comments or questions though.
Okay. So what time is it?
It's 12:15.
Are there any comments or questions? We could do it from the top and say, knock. So you ask, do someone. And then I say, Shaksanikik, yeah. And so be sure and try to mark what you say and what the old man says that you're visiting.
Well, I did have one question about the previous like the part about where she's really sick with arthritis. I was wondering what the part of that was that indicated the, I guess, what part indicates that you're talking about another person as a she. Because I know the kunach kla, oh, the unique part is the sick. Kunach is very, right? And kla is what's that?
Because she asked, "How is Mary?" and he's answering.
Hatin, I see. So like, it doesn't. There doesn't need to be an indicator because it's just a response and it's already assumed. Yeah. Okay, understood. Sheesh and sheesh.
Any other comments or questions? So I was going to say, be sure and mark what you say and what the old man says. I don't know what method you want to use. I heard somebody say they use colors. So, because it's going to get long.
Oh, yeah.
You get confused about when do I speak? When, so, but once you learn the conversation, it's going to be fairly easy because the comments are in response to each other as you talk. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, if there are no comments or questions about this, I told you that we would have story time. And story times were really important in the teaching methods to the children, or also you're expected to know the history of the people. And it's pretty confusing in today's um, discussions. There's a lot of people that say, oh, you can't tell that story because you're not a raven, or you can't tell that story because you're an eagle. And I don't think I ever heard that kind of comments because the history is passed on. In our case, the stories and history was told to us by my father, and he told us stories of eagles and ravens, and even in other towns like Kiksadi stories and uh, stories in Haines and stories um, in different places. And he never apologized for passing on the story. So I think uh, I've talked to some people that call and find out what they can do and what they can't do, and I think that's being overcautious because if we don't pass on the history or the culture, it's going to be lost because we're being so overly cautious. Well, you can't tell that story because you're not a raven, kind of thing. Um, so the other thing discussion I had with Lance was if the story is published by the Downhowers, then what does that do, to the sacredness of keeping the story to yourself, to your own family? It's already out there for the public to see.
Yeah.
So, but I use the fact that my father never apologized for any of the stories he told us because that part of our history or our culture was very important, and we had to know it. Also, especially if the story is used for uh, uh, training child purposes. So the book that was published by what's his name? Anyway, the Tlingit stories that was published, I find to be pretty accurate because in the background is a man that really knew the history, and his wife wrote the stories. So if you read from the book and you read the introduction, it tells you who wrote it. And but as I read the stories, I think, wow, this is just almost exactly like my dad used to tell us. So some of the stories get really expanded when somebody gets a hold of it and makes it into a big giant movie or something, and you can hardly recognize. But I told you that one of the things because I'm here by myself, nobody to talk to except now I have Anna to talk to, but conversation wise, it becomes really, really difficult. So I forgot to tell you that this is a time for you to relax because you're not going to have to perform, but just sit back and get a cup of tea, and it'll be time for a story. But I played around with translating. Translating is very, very difficult, and I don't think I can publish anything with the translations I come up with. One of them I tried was, I thought, hey, it'd be fun to do to Cinderella. So
Oh,
I started on it, and it was fairly easy because it's a very old story. But there's you run into things like fairy godmother, glass prince that we never had. So what do you call them? You know, so it got pretty mangled as far as I'm concerned when I was telling it to myself. But so I want to tell you a story that it was, I think it's in that Tlingit storybook, and it's also a story that my father told us. So it's going to be pretty mixed between those two, the ones that I know, and we are criticized by the writers of history that the oral history and stories are not accurate because each person that tells it is different. And and that's true when you look into the Downhour book about oral history. There is one story about Glacier Bay that was told by two different women. And the criticism comes from the fact that the stories are different. I mean, what the comments were, and when you think about it, I think all history or stories of old were oral to begin with, and the important part of oral history is that the parts that are important are still there. So if you were to take, well, I mentioned Cinderella, how many 100,000 times was it rewritten and redone and replayed? But one thing was always true and always the same. There was Cinderella, who was an orphan and had a mean stepmother and mean stepsisters. And there was a prince and there was a fairy godmother. And that part of the story always remains the same, always.
Mm.
So you can dress it up and do what you want with it, you know, just have fun to rewrite the Cinderella story. And I thought, how can I rewrite that into a Tlingit story? If she lost her glass slipper, what kind of shoe would a Tlingit girl be wearing? So,
Uh,
but anyway, the point is, uh, depending on the storyteller, if they are really careful, the main part of the story is always remains the same, and it would remain because of what the uh, characters are and what they do is the
Mm.
main and teaching part of the story. So this one is a Cinderella story, Tlingit, and in the traditional way was to take the boys from their mother when they're about 11 years old for good. They go to live with their uncle forever. And so it's up to her brother to raise the boys and teach them, uh, especially about food gathering and hunting and fishing, those kind of things, and also to teach them about the culture. So it's important to know that part of the history for the Tlingits, because the story is about an uncle that had two brothers from one sister and another boy from another sister. So he had three boys that came to live with him and for him to train. And the the boys, he would, in the winter after the food gathering is over, in the winter would go out at dawn to bathe in the bay. And they did this, apparently it was a practice up until the missionaries came and said it wasn't a good idea to take a bath every day. So they would go out winter or summer. And that included the women and children too that used to do that. So the boys would go out and do their exercise and jump around in the cold water and to strengthen themselves to get strong. That was two of the boys. And they would come, as they were going out to do the exercise, the other brother, the other nephew would be curled up by the fire, getting warm. And so they really looked down on him for not getting up to go with them to bathe in the cold bay. And so they got to the point where they would start kicking the ashes on him as they went by, and he was trying to warm up. And they criticized him and thought he was really weak. The wife of their uncle kind of was really kind to him. She would give him food and and watch over him as he was over by the fire. And they came back in, and they would show off their exercises, and he would still be curled up by the fire. And what they were doing was they were getting ready to go hunting for I don't know why, but I always forget the English word for ton.
Sea lion?
Sea
Sea lion?
sea lion, that's the word. The sea lions are monstrous size, really. The ones I've seen,
Yeah.
I would compare them to whales. They were so big.
Yeah.
And so they got ready to go because it was the right season or whatever to go to hunt sea lions. And so the third boy got to go along, but they said, you can't hunt with us because you're just going to take care of the boat, that it doesn't float away. So they got out, and there was a monstrous sea lion sitting on the rock with all the other sea lions. And the uncle went right up to attack the big sea lion, and the sea lion flipped him and smashed him against the rocks and killed him. So the brothers had to bring back their uncle. And they began, after the funeral, everything was taken care of, they decided that they would really train real hard so they could go and get revenge for their uncle, but they would try to train before that. And so they began their training, but each time as they were going out to get their training, here's the third nephew curled up by the fire again. And so they were really disgusted with him. And they would go out and train. They decided that there was a young alder, I think it was, that was growing at the end of town. And it was young enough, so they thought they could, if they got strong enough to pull it out of the ground by the roots, they would be ready to go to get revenge for their uncle. So they worked really hard, and after exercising and working hard, they would run over and try to pull the alder out. And so they knew they needed further training. And what was happening that they didn't know about was the third nephew would get up early before the raven got up, so he would do his exercise and training himself to be strong, and he would finish about the time that they got up to go. So they saw him trying to get warm by the fire after he exercised already, and they thought different. So he was real determined to do something. So he would get up earlier than everybody and go out and train. And apparently his aunt knew about it, so she would try to help him with food and whatever to show kindness to him. And he, while he was training, the spirit of strength came to him, and told him, I can help you get stronger. And so he would get up and we would meet and get a lot of training. And finally, he was pretty strong, and strength told him to try to pull the alder out. So he went and he pulled it out. Then he put it back in the ground and left it there like it was still still growing. And so the brothers, after their training, they ran over and pulled on the alder and it came out of the ground. So they said, okay, now we're ready to go and have revenge. So they got all ready and they said, you can go with us, but you'll have to take care of the boat. And so they all went to where the sea lions were, and the big king sea lion was there. And the they tried to attack it, but it attacked them instead. And so the third nephew just walked over and had great strength, and he got the big sea lion by the tail and smashed it against the rocks. And he took his the two guys back to the village. So when that story was told, it had a message. So if anybody can tell me what the message was. Did I put you all to sleep?
Snake Quasiku!
Okay, think about it. What kind of message that was? Because that story was told as part of your training, and if you didn't get it, then you got the story again the next time. Anybody else want to try? Guess what the point is?
Well, sometimes you don't know what people are up to. They might look like they're not doing anything, but they're working really hard and just not talking about it.
Not showing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That seems
tried to
like-
listen, but my mom called me, so I had to deal with that.
It's like there's some themes around hard work and modesty and humility. Yeah, and some kind of warnings against, like Anna said, looking down on others, not knowing what they're doing. And then also just there is that I love the part where you brought in the spirit of strength. Maybe there's something else out there that can help us.
Yeah, because is there anyone else?
Is there anywhere where I could read this story?
Or you can what?
Read the story you told?
It's in that Tlingit storybook.
Oh, it is?
Hmm.
Oh.
Which
And-
I forgot how to find that.
Also, in a few days, you can go online into the YouTube Tlingit and Haida. Everything is recorded. So if you miss anything, you can go ahead and listen to it again and again and again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
Amazon has everything, I think.
There's a couple of names in this story that are really important. The name of the third nephew and the name of the big sea lion. I'm wondering maybe if you could put those in the chat or mention them here.
What are the names? Sea lion is Ton. I'll write it in
I
the
think
chat.
that he had like a specific name. This was like he was the biggest sea lion at the top of the rock.
Oh, yeah.
This
Sige, Dan.
That's cool. What are their names? Are you familiar with their names?
Oh, I just said really big seal.
How about you,
Mm,
Kate?
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I have a relative who has that name, and I can't remember how it goes. And that's what it means. It's from that story, because this is the strongman story, isn't it?
Was
They,
it
I think the title is Lingit word is Ucha Black Man or something like that.
Is this the duck tooth story?
Yeah.
Doctor.
Goodness, jeez.
And
Hmm.
because of the ashes and soot. But are there any other comments or I don't know if the story by itself is somewhere, but I do know it is in that Lingit story book. There's a
I
lot
think
of
it
stories.
I think it can be found in the Hashuka by the Downhowers, the duck tooth story.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
One perspective that I was told by an elder was that even back when sometimes we used to hold each other down, and we have to be careful of not doing that and lifting each other up instead of holding each other down.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. That was what my mom pointed out was to be nice and kind to people. Like the aunt, she was trying to be helpful, even though they were putting him down. And he never defended himself. That's one thing I always thought, why he never tried to explain. So it's important to watch, like somebody said, to watch what you say or comment or be nasty or show kindness. They could have asked him if he would go with them, or if they never asked him to join them, they just criticized him. So and the stories are important for history. The thing you learn about from this is the boys being trained, taken from their mother to live with their uncle, who's doing the training to take care of their education and bringing them up. That's one thing you learn there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting to hear these short stories. When I used to tell stories to my students, and then I required them to pick one of them and see what they can come up with as a final. And so they picked this one. and made, they wanted to do hand puppets. So they made these hand puppets with all the characters. And the one that was called Strength had gray hair, and on the clothes there was a big S with a V. I thought that was pretty funny, like Superman. And they even had a pot, a plant that they used for him to try to pull out of the ground. And also they had a stuffed seal to play the part of the sea lion. I remembered sea lion. And they had two puppets that played the part of the main character. And the last one was very muscular, and had to go and actually pull the plant out of the pot. So it was really pretty fun to watch them redo the whole story with these hand puppets talking for them. So I think that was better than a showing for a TV or a movie, because then they really try to add so much to it. I know. So if you're teaching a class or working with young people, I've found that the young people are very, very creative, very creative. Before I started teaching, these teachers told me that never say anything, these native kids. They're really, really quiet. Never participate. Totally untrue. Yeah, and the interesting part to me with their creativeness is there's always somebody who takes the leadership without me appointing, say, I want you to be the leader. All of a sudden, this person shows up and starts steering the whole thing. So it was an education for me in working with these young people. So don't be discouraged by comments from other people that it's hard to work with native kids. They don't say anything. Can't keep them quiet, really. So, so that's the end of our story time. And what time is it? Yeah.
It's 10 minutes till 1.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
So,
story. I wasn't familiar with it, but I'll look it up, and I learned a lot just listening to you. It's so nice to sit and listen to a story too.
yeah.
Is there a
Tlingit.
Tlingit word for story time?
Boy, I don't know.
I think story.
Technique, I think is the word for telling something. Technique.
Shkashnik.
Shkashnigi is a storyteller.
Yeah.
Shkashnigi.
Yeah. Thank you. Gunachish.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the training that is done for a storyteller was very intense. They had to pass a test. So not like with me where I pick it up because my dad told the story or I read it or both, or but with names. My dad used to even include the songs that that became written because of a story or something that happened, and he used to sing those songs along with it. So it was very, very educational, and I wish I could do the same, but I don't know the songs that went with the stories.
What a cool way to tell a story, though, to incorporate song.
Yeah, he was quite an actor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he used to tell us stories from the Bible.
Uh-huh.
With Daniel in the lions, then you could practically hear the lions roaring.
Whoa.
So good.
Who was that?
My dad.
Oh, dang.
Because at his age, they really trained them, gave them extra good training for telling stories. They had to know it to pass a test before they can go on to any other studies.
Oh.
So at that time, the historians especially had to be really accurate.
Mm.
And the storytellers too were tested. They would get a group of men to come and listen, and then they tell the story and or whatever the requirement was. Then the men would have a meeting, decide pass or fail.
Mm.
So if they fail, then they have to study some more and try it again.
Mm.
So
Who taught your dad to tell stories? Was it one person or multiple?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Was your father selected as a storyteller as a child?
Yeah, he was probably trained in the old fashioned. He was born, he might have been born 1867 or something like that.
Okay.
He didn't know, and
Yeah.
he didn't care. So, but he was when he was a teenager, he got to go to the Klondike Gold Rush.
Whoa.
You know how the Clinkets were paid to carry things up the trail to
Yeah.
the Klondike. I think he was one of those with his friend, best friend.
Whoa.
What's his name?
Frank St. Clair
Mm.
Sakuyi is his Tlingit name, Sakuyi.
Sakoyi.
Daktentan.
Daktintan.
Yeah.
Sakoyi. Frank Claire. So that is that your maiden name is Claire?
St. Clair.
Oh, Saint Clair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when the missionaries gave out names. It was like Smith, Johnson, Jones, and
Yeah.
William, and we came up with St. Clair. The only thing I could figure out was my grandparents were probably visiting in Canada because
Huh.
that sounds English, isn't it?
Oh. Huh.
I don't know. I'm making that up because I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's my guess. But yeah, the training that the men got, depending on how uh, strict their instructors were,
Mm-hmm.
really had to uh, get get
Mm.
things right, get it done.
Yeah.
The migration story was a requirement, I think, and you had to tell that really, really accurately.
Whoa. Did he tell it to you?
Yeah,
Oh,
I know the migration story for Glacier Bay. Yeah, and
cool.
there's different migration stories for like Angoon and for Sitka and for all these different places.
Uh,
So
did you share one once when we first taught this class together in the fall?
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't do it this time.
Okay. So
So
cool.
are there any more comments or questions? The uncle that is training his nephew has to, of course, pay for his education. So when my father, his nephew, by the time his sister had a son, it was already, the missionaries were already here and everybody going to boarding school. He paid for his nephew's education in Chamala Indian School in Oregon.
Oh,
So instead of going through the training, like I was talking about, education was required. So he did that instead.
oh. So would an uncle train his sister's children and his brother's children?
No, his sister's children only.
Okay.
His,
And
his brother, if there's more than one brother, he could take the nephews from another sister or something.
oh, okay. Okay, so he would train his sister's children.
Yeah, but if you're like my mother, who was an orphan, no brothers, so then you have to go to the clan.
Okay.
So somebody that is real close from the clan can step in and do that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. By the time I came along, because of school and missionaries and whatever, a lot of that was pretty well gone. Uh, so things were different.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Ah,
So it'd be someone from my own moiety that would be responsible for my training. Is that how that would go? Since it was the mother's brother, the nephew would be trained by someone from his own moiety.
Yeah. Yeah. If she didn't have a brother, that's the way it worked.
Okay.
Yeah. And the boys were removed forever. So they never got to go back.
yeah,
What
I
age?
was told,
Go ahead.
I had heard once that the parents will coddle and love and give the babies everything that they could ever want because it's the aunt and uncle's job to teach them how to be good people. So the parents were the safe space and the aunts and uncles were the stern teachers.
Disciplinarian. Disciplinarian. The mother and her brother were the disciplinarians. The father, because he is a different clan, cannot punish or reprimand his children.
Oh,
So if you can imagine a father that is always kind and never punish you and never say any bad words to you.
Oh.
It was so neat. My brother and I used to sit on my dad's lap and he would tell these stories and, you know, always with a lot of kindness and respect because
Oh.
we're the opposite clan.
Huh. That's awesome.
A little hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Same. Same here.
So I have a real good image of fathers because of that.
Mm.
And my mother was pretty strict, but not too stern. And she was really, really watchful. I know, well, of course, I noticed it was because of me. Her, she knew how to communicate with me at a distance. If I looked at her and I saw her expression, I knew I was doing something wrong. So if I'm standing up, I better sit down, or if I'm sitting down, I better stand up or something. So the communication was, you know, with motions and signals. So,
Huh.
and if I'm talking, I better shut up.
Well, I guess we're out of time. Was there anything you wanted us to work on before we meet again?
Yeah, we're going to add on Tuesday. We're going to add more lines. So, if you can practice the lines, so because you're going to be doing that, and the more times you say it, and don't be afraid to talk to yourself. Read it out loud so you can hear. If you can hear yourself saying, say, "Oh, hey, that didn't sound right. I need to make the correction." Also, it's a learning experience to say it and then hear your voice at the same time. So it's important.
Yeah.
That was just the the dialogue from the berries and the bananas from last week, and then like this week is the one with the arthritis. Those are our two dialogues.
I think it's one dialogue that
Oh,
they're
that's all one dialogue.
I think
Okay.
it is because they come over and then they say, "Who is it?" And then they come in, and they're like, "I brought you berries." And then they ask, "How's Mary?" And then that's when they start talking about the arthritis.
Would it be okay to put that up on the screen one more time and I can just take a quick picture of it?
Yeah, I'll do that. And then I'll also put the link in the chat so you can have a copy for everybody.
Cheese.
Uh-huh. Okay, so here's the link I just put in the chat to the notes I took, and then I'll put it up on the screen so you take a picture if you like. There's part 1, and then when you're ready, I'll show you part 2.
Go ahead, thanks.
Okay, so here's part 2.
Sean Mary.
Yeah. With her arthritis.
Sacht.
Yeah, she needs zacht.
Yeah.
Yuck, a knock, good medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're coming to that.
Oh, that's the next part.
Ooh,
I guess the healing.
Jump in the gap.
I love it.
no spoilers.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Anything else, Shirley?
No, that's it.
Okay. Do you want me to stay on to do any planning, or should I plan to meet you next week?
Yeah, just a few minutes.
Okay, cool. Everybody else, we'll see you again.
Positive.
Ah.